Hello. Good evening to all. Good
Good
evening,
evening,
Rajgopal.
everyone.
Good evening. Good evening, Rajgopal. Good evening, Santosh. Good evening, Teja. Good evening, Santosh B. Good evening, Gopal Krishna Konni. So I have received some reviews based upon last three sessions. So we will discuss about that reviews in doubt session. Okay. Today the class for session 4, risk assessment in computer system validation. Over to Raviraj sir. Raviraj sir will explain you today's session.
Thank you, sir. Can we start?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Good evening Durga Prasad. Good evening Shiva. Good evening Muralidhar. Good evening all. Good evening Nagaraju. So first listen the lesson and we will discuss the reviews whatever you are not understanding. All the things 14 members are watching.
So, can we start? Today's topic is risk assessment. Am I audible? Hello, Srikanth sir.
Voice is hello. Voice
Uh,
is slow, low I think, compared to yesterday's session.
uh, just a minute. Now,
Shall we?
is it fine?
Yes, is it fine?
Okay.
Is it possible to increase the voice?
Just a minute. Okay, now.
It's okay, I think. Just 1 minute, I am adding this one.
Okay. So, topic is risk assessment. So, today we learned that how to risk assessment is prepared, which type of risk during process or based on the functionality of the system. We define risk assessment based on which guideline is followed to prepare the risk assessment and what is the scenario to control the risk and to define the risk. Let's start with day-to-day routine activity. We know that some warnings or some suggestions or some say safety is there in routine operation. We can say that it's helpful to us to protect our lives or other lives. It's some controls are there which is governed by government or which is helpful to save the life and to follow them. Some rules are there. So this is the examples which we uh, so during routine activity, just like drive slow, wear helmets, wear seat belts, smoking causes cancer, wear a helmet, follow traffic rules, wear a mask. It is very famous during COVID-19. Please keep distance. uh, दो गज की दूरी रखिए. Prepare and prevent, don't repair and repeat. Precaution is better than cure. It is written in at hospitals. That keep silent, switch off your mobiles, uh, don't throw any wastage without dustbin. So these are the warning which prevent or which control our behavior and which save our lives in day to day life. So these suggestions how it become into the picture. So why it is required to control something else to save the life. So that's why this suggestions or say safety or warning is there. So where is the risk? in day-to-day life. If you don't follow the rules, then it's violation. It's a risk. If you don't wear the belt, if you don't wear the helmets during traveling, then you have to find it. You have to pay for it. Or if any accident is happened, you have to lose your life. So, where is the risk in routine activity? It's in a stock market, product manufacturing in pharma industries. During exam is also one type of risk. If you don't prepare for it, then you will fail or you get the backlogs for that. Traveling is the risk. Career is one type of also risk. If you not be fluent in English or any department related activities or any task which is given by or done by you, so it impact on career. Computer system is very much critical in pharma industry, as we are discussing for computer system validation. Medicine, if a medicine is not tested or not R&D is there, then medicine given by doctor or prescribed by doctor is also one type of risk for human body. Environment is also risk. You already know that uh, day by day our global warming is there, so temperature is increasing after one by in 1 year. Then patient safety is a risk for the human being. Then business risk, if you start the business without experience or without finding any strategy for that, so it's a business risk. So many risks are there during routine activity, or saying business, or saying during in on human life. So risk is everywhere, not only for in system, or you can say only for company. So this is the one of example that published in Indian Express on 3rd April 2021. So what is the news that busy on phone call nurse give 2 doses of COVID vaccine to woman in UP. So what will be the happen with that woman? So this is one type of risk. It's she she may die, or she may have some side effect of that vaccine. So this type of risk or this type of scenario we already well aware about it, and we already heard from news or any newspapers, or many reels are there in our social media. So this type of thing is happening with someone, or to avoid this type of thing you must have to follow this rule or regulations. So this is risk in day-to-day life. And we moving forward for our system, means process based risk, or say functionality based risk. So risk assessment is defined in ICH Q9. It's a guideline which is given by International Council for Harmonization of Technical Requirements for Pharmaceutical for Human Use. So ICH means International Council for Harmonization. It's a unity, or say group of people or group of countries which define some guidelines for risk assessment, or for CROs are, or for say clinical research are there. So in game 5, which we already discussing for computer system validation, it is written that for risk assessment follow the ICHQ9 rules as defined in that guideline. So we are going to define risk assessment based on ICHQ9. So based on ICHQ9, what is the definition of risk assessment? It's a systematic process of organizing information to support a risk decision to be made with a risk management process. It consists of identification of hazard and the analysis and evaluation of risk associated with exposure to those hazards. So it is more complex for that for us. So I define it in with a picture presentation. I explain one by one a systematic process which is used for the system and defined as per your company policy of organizing information. Means the information or say documents or say any relevant evidence is there which is made with system with your system or say with your process to support a risk decision to be made within a risk management process. So it also show that what is the risk based on your decision, based on your thought process, based on your routine operation, or based on your system functionality to be made within a risk management process. So it also reflect in risk management, means your quality management system, we can say QMS, or it also reflect what is the risk in documentation in the process or any controls are there. It consists of the identification of hazards, means hazard means any problem, any danger for that, and the analysis. So based on which type of risk, so analysis is there for categorization of risk assessment, and define how the risk will be evaluated or which type of control is there. So analysis is required, and evaluation of risk associated with exposure to those hazard. Then evaluation for risk control is there, and that type of risk will be considered throughout the process, throughout the life cycle of the system. So exposure to those hazard means risk assessment is a document preparation based on risk. So based on your thought process, based on your operation and functionality, the risk is categorized and defined, and based on criticality of the risk, means which is critical or not, risk assessment is prepared before implementation of the system, means pre-risk assessment, and after implementation of the system which type of control is there. So risk assessment is also defined after implementation of the system, means post risk assessment is there which so controls which type of controls is used using in the system. So this is the definition as per ICH Q9 guideline. What is risk assessment? So in risk assessment, hazard analysis and evaluation is used. It define which type of problem, which is many dangers for us, or for operation or for functionality, and its analysis and evaluation is defined in risk assessment. So any risk assessment is based on probability, severity, and detectability. I'm saying that not only a system-based risk, any type of risk, which is using during day-to-day activity, it is a business risk. It's maybe financial risk. It's maybe uh, environmental risk. It's maybe traffic signal rules breaking risk. Whatever the risk is be defined based on probability, severity, and detectability. So we will learn one by one what is the these three term used during our defining risk assessment. So moving to next, what is probability? So probability is one type of occurrence. As we know, we are playing dice with for ludos or for subsidies are there. So we the dice reflect how numbers based on randomization. So it's a probability. You can't define which number is there, but it's have 1 to 6 number is defined in dices. So anyone can happen. during whenever you play with ludos. So the probability, it's a one type of occurrence which which you get from that system, or some functionalities are there. So the identification of the possibilities that the risk event happens, it's an event or it's a possibility of occurrence when you get one number, when you get the six number for that. So likelihood of fault occurring, so how many type it's happened, and based on this probability we define and we start the risk assessment. So probability is similar to occurrence, how many time or how many events will be happen, it's called probability. Next one is severity. So the severity means the how the criticality of that, it is low, medium or high. Based on your experience and knowledge, you define this probability will happen. So it's have impact, severe impact for that on system, or to say in product or patient safety. Or based on experience you say that there is no impact if this function is not working fine, or this probability will appear during production. So severity is a risk impact, a measure of possible consequences of that hazard. Severity describes the highest level of damage possible when an accident occur from a particular hazard. So probability, it's how many time it's happened. So based on probability happen, based on probability, how many severe that probability. It's damage more functionalities, it's damage nothing for that, or it's impact in another system or another department, or we can say its impact on preparation of BMR BPR, or its impact on any server for that. So severity is the impact based on the occurrence of that risk. Then detectability. So probability will happen, means its occurrence for that. For that occurrence, what is the impact? That's called severity. And how we can detect the risk, that's called detectability. The ability to detect the harm, means whatever the hazard is happening, we detect, or we can say that if we have some controls are there, so the risk is detected. So the ability to discover or determine the existence, presence or fact of a hazard. So probability, it's a randomization number, means how many times it's occur. The severity, so is depend upon probability, means based on probability which type of severity is there, and how can we control, or how can we prevent, that's called the detectability. So is this clear? So going to the next, two type of risk assessment is used. One called is qualitative, and one called is as a quantitative. So qualitative, it's showing that the risk is defined based on a risk matrix, means high, medium, low, criticality, critical, non-critical, low critical, high critical. This numbering system, uh, this wording system is used to prepare this type of qualitative risk. So risk may be classed based on high, medium, low level, or sometimes it's more critical or less critical is there, based on your how you define that qualitative risk. And second one is quantitative risk. As already name suggests that it's used in numbering system for that to define the risk. So based on criticality, or we can say that all probability, severity and detectability will be defined based on the numbering system. So as we know that we are marking 1 to 5 as 5 is uh, more critical, and one is less critical. So the numeric approach is used for quantitative risk. So this two type of risk is using for risk assessment, and it is not any defined that if you have to must have to use this type of risk. Any one of them you can utilize and you can use for to define risk assessment. So this is given in ICHQ9 as we are going that guideline is here, and the reference of ICHQ9 is defined in Chem 5. So in qualitative risk assessment, so risk matrix is used. So based on the risk matrix, or we can say that high, medium, and low criticality, risk is defined. So you can say in see in the PPT that uh, one is probability and second one is severity. Is defined in first picture of this PPT, that based on probability is low, medium, and high, and also severity is low, medium, and high. The cross mark which highlighted is red, yellow, and green is color is there. So if probability is high, and for that high probability severity is also high, then it is risk class 1. And second one, if my severity is medium, there is no severe impact on process, or say in system, then my probability is low, so the happening of that event is low, then severity is medium, probability is low, the cross section part is green, so it's called risk class 3. So by this first table we define that in which class this risk is going on. So it is also written below the first image, that severity its impact on patient safety, product quality, and data integrity, or other harm. Probability means the likelihood or the fault occurring, as we say that its occurrence. Then the risk class is multiplication of severity and probability. So here multiplication is used as a risk matrix, means cross section part of the probability and severity. Then moving to right side, it's define risk class and detectability. So based on first picture, you define risk class 1, 2, and 3. So based on risk class 1, 2, and 3, you have to cross section part with detectability. So it's make some one another risk matrix. So if I define risk class 1 and its detectability means control is high, then my risk is medium risk priority. If my risk class is 3 and my detectability is low, means no any detectability is there, then its cross section part is in yellow, then it's a medium risk priority. If my risk class is 3 and detectability is high, so cross part of that picture is green, so it's a low risk priority. So by considering this scenario, means multiplication of severity and probability, we get the risk class 1, 2, in 3. Then again multiplication of that risk class, which is written in the right side of that picture, that detectability is likelihood that the fault will be noted before that harm occurs, and the risk priority is multiplication of that risk class multiply with the detectability. So by this qualitative risk assessment is defined. So it's some confusing, so I give one example for it. That qualitative risk assessment, it's defined based on risk matrix. So as we already discussed, risk class is multiplication of severity and probability. Based on this severity and probability, risk class we got. Then risk priority is multiplication of risk class and detectability. So based on this multiplication, we get the what is the risk priority. Means it's a high risk priority, medium risk priority, or low risk priority. Sometimes reference or any document you see that SOD means it's a severity of for occurrence, and D for detectability. So this risk is defined based on SOD, or sometimes you confusing then what is the SOD means. This type of risk you can say that it's as a SOD risk assessment, means is defined based on severity or occurrence, means probability and detectability. So this type of table is used during preparation of risk assessment. First column said that what is the scenario of the risk, means you define which type of risk is there. So based on that risk, what is the impact for the system, for the process, or for your business, or say that particular system risk is defined during validation. Then P means probability, S means severity, and D means detectability. So you define probability based on what is the risk scenario and what is the impact. So risk is how many times it will be happen based on your thought process and based on your routine observation. You define the probability. Then what is the impact based on that risk? It's called the severity. And D means detectability. Which type of control is there? So during risk priority before measure means we didn't validate the system. So this risk is defined before the validation activity, or we can say that qualification activities is completed. So before risk priority, it must be high if any controls are there. So this is the before risk measure. What is the risk priority before the qualification activity? Then by validation or by qualification activity is performed, then some controls are there which we already verified in IQ, Q, and PQ, means validation document. And so you can give some reference of that test. Uh, Means you have surety that this type of risk is defined in this functionality, means these controls are there, and the reference test script or test is executed to verify that type of risk. Then after measures, just a minute. Is this visible now? Hello? Hello? Screen is visible now?
Hello.
Okay. Okay, I continue. I got it.
Yes, it's visible now, sir. Yes, it's visible.
Okay.
Okay.
So qualitative risk assessment define before the measures, means before we verify the controls, and after measures means after the control is verified during validation activity. So I give you one example of it. Right? What is the risk scenario? So risk scenario is unique user ID is not required to access the system. Means if my name is Raviraj, so system is allowed to use or create another user which name is also Raviraj. So uh, two name are there which have unique, which means which does not have unique identity. So during login into the system, anyone can access, means you can't understand that which one is from this department or any identity found with reports and with audit trail of their system. So what is the impact if system allowed to use uh, same user id in that database? So its impact on system data, so you can't identify who is responsible for which data change, and unauthorized access might be possible. So another one is with same name can get the access of that system. Impact on data integrity, so no identity is there for data change or any system update. So impact on its data integrity. So if I define this type of risk scenario before validation activities is performed, so which type of probability is there? So I say it's a high, and this the probability, severity, and detectability. It's depend upon your thought process, and it's may vary to person to person. So it's not compulsory that it's may be high or it must be high. So based on your thought and in which stage you are defining the risk, so this probability, severity, and detectability will be changed. So I considering probability as a high because I don't know which type of control is there, because I didn't validate any this type of functionality uh, uh, for the system, and I define the risk before the validation activities performed. So probability is high. So this type of problem is happen, then its impact is high for as a compliance point of view, as a quality assurance point of view. So I define it its a severity as a high. So what is my risk class based on this severity and probability? As the you see in first picture, that if my probability is high, my severity is high, then it's in risk class 1. Okay, then what is the detectability before the measure? So I don't aware about the controls for which type of control is used for that system. So I define detectability as a low because I don't know the control. So our risk class is 1. Then what is the detectability I define? It's a low. So cross section part of this second image, detectability in risk class 1, it's in red. So it's a high risk priority. So before the measure, this if this type of risk or scenario happen, then it's have a high risk priority. But afterwards I performing the system validation, means IQ, OQ, and PQ. Then system I check that this type of control is available to prevent this risk. So system is configured for creation of unique user id. This control is there, and I verify with this reference document number. It is verified in OQ test step number 10 or whatever is as it is. Then after measure means after validation activity, now what is the risk priority? So I verify that this type of control is available. So my currently after validation activity performed, what is the probability of happening this type of occurrence? Means it's a low, as I already checked in OQ test step number 10 that system does not allow to use same user ID in uh, in one system. So my probability is low. Severity is as it is. Means if I define severity before the measure is high, so after the measure is high. Or we can say that if this type of risk happen, then the uh, impact on the system, or we can say in the process, it's same if it is before or if it is after. So only probability and detectability will be changed. So severity is as it is. Then After control, I found that this type of control is available in that system. So detectability is my high after the measures. So now I again define what is the risk priority based on this risk matrix. You can say in first picture that if a probability is low, my severity is high, then my risk class is risk class 2. Okay, then based on second picture of the this screen, that if my risk class is 2 and detectability is high, means this green part of the second picture is means it's a reflect that it's a low risk priority. So after measure I got that there is no risk or it's have a low risk priority for this risk scenario. So this is one type of example how to define the risk. Sometimes pre-risk assessment and post-risk assessment is combined in one document. So this type of table is used to prepare combined document. And sometimes pre-risk means before measure is defined in pre-risk assessment, and after measure measures defined in post-risk assessment. And this scenario is based prepared based on URS for validation activity, and many other risk scenario is prepared for business impact analysis, or we can say what is business risk, what is document control risk. It's maybe vary to vary for different process, or process related any risk, or batch manufacturing related risk. So that's are the different scenario, but in validation we using only functional activity related risk and system related risk. Okay, so moving to the next, second type of risk assessment is quantitative risk assessment. As we already know, qualitative risk assessment, which defined by using the risk matrix. So some cross part of risk matrix is considered to define the risk priority for this risk means assessment. Quantitative risk assessment is based on RPN. So RPN number is used, means numbering system is used to define this type of risk. RPN means risk priority number. So we based on the number, which number we will get after all activity, means probability, severity and detectability is defined. Based on that RPN number we define which type of risk is that. So here the multiplication of probability, severity and detectability. So I define that if my probability is high, then I put as number 3. If my probability is medium, then number 2. If my probability is low, then it's a number 1. So same thing is will be happen with probability and severity. And for detectability it is reverse process for that. If my detectability is high, then I define one number for that. If my medium detectability is a medium, then I define 2 number for that. And if my detectability is low, then I define 3 number for that. So based on these three scenario, probability, severity and detectability, numbering system is used for quantitative risk assessment. Then I multiply these three scenario, means probability, severity and detectability, and what I will get, it's one single number. So I define three scenario. If the number is between 1 to 5, or then is it is low risk priority. If it is in between 6 to 9, it is a medium risk priority. If it is between 10 to 27, then it is high risk priority. So this type of table is also used. It is similar to previously seen table, which is used for qualitative risk assessment, and this one is quantitative risk assessment. So here numeric approach is used to define and to verify the risk scenario. So table is same that what is risk scenario for your URS for the risk, and what is impact for that risk. And here P means probability, S means severity, and D means detectability. Here we don't consider high, low, medium as training metrics, but we define the numeric approach. If my probability is medium, then I write this in this table, it's two number. Then severity is low, then I write one number. If my detectability is 2, then I write two number. And the multiplication of this P, S, and D, it's generate one number, it's called RPN, means a risk priority number. So based on the RPN, I define or I can verify that which type of risk is in this system. So another example of this type of risk, it's a quantitative risk assessment. So I use a same example for more understanding that unique user ID is not required to access the system. So scenario is same, that system allowed to use two user same user ID to access the system. Impact is also same, that it is on system data, unauthorized access might be possible, impact on data integrity. But here, what is RPN before measure? I define based on the numeric approach used for quantitative risk assessment. So my probability is high, as already we defined in previous type of risk assessment. So I use three number to define that my probability is high. My severity is high, then I use that for high, it's a three number. Then my detectability is low, so I use also number three for the detectability. Then I multiply this P, S, and D. Then it's create some number, one number. It's called RPN, means the risk priority number. So based on this table, I come to know that it is in high risk priority. So final generated number is 27. So my system is in high risk before the measures. So after system is validated, means IQ, OQ, and PQ is performed, then we verify the controls are there. Means the system does not allow the same user ID to log in. Means a different user ID is required to access the system, as I already verified in OQ or PQ, whatever the script. So reference document is there. Then what is the probability? It is low, because system have the control, and I already verify which type of control is there, and I have the evidence of it. Then severity is as it is, because what is the impact on data integrity, or we can say the system. So it is same, it is as before measure. Then what is the detectability? So I found that already controls is there in this system. So my detectability is high, means control or detection level of this risk scenario is high. So I define P as a number 1, S as a number 3, and D as a number 1. So by multiplying this P, S, and D, I got a single number that's called RPN. It is 3. So based on this table, it is in low risk priority. So by this same example, you can define risk assessment based on qualitative approach or based on quantitative approach. But you got the answer is same, means whatever the risk priority you got, it is same for both type of any one type of risk assessment. So During risk management, different tool is used. Uh, these are the example to define risk, but in validation means CSV, we only considering that which type of functional risk is there, is based on URS or based on the functionality and operation of the system. So these tools are used in many industries, or we can say that the scenario of your business, scenario of your other related process is there. So failure mode effect analysis is which type of failure, and based on that failure risk is defined. Then second one is FMECA, failure mode effect analysis and criticality analysis. Means it is similar to FMEA, but in this FMECA, some criticality is defined. Means which risk have more critical compared to another one. So which is more critical, which have more impact on the process or on the system, will be handled by some SOPs or some defined process. Then FTA, fault risk tree analysis, it is one type of ladder logic is there. If this risk is happen, if it is yes, then we have to do this activity. If it is no, then we have to do this another activity. So it's a ladder logic is there. It's called fault analysis, hazard analysis and critical control points. So it's defined the which type of hazard will be happening, and which type of control is there to fulfill the criticality of that hazard. Hazard operability analysis means during operation, any hazard is happen, any emergency is there. So based on that hazard happen during operation, risk is defined. Preliminary hazard analysis means which will be happen, what which type of hazard will be happen. We so we prevent to occur that hazard. So preliminary hazard analysis is used to prevent that type of hazard which will be occur during operation phase. So what is the risk assessment benefit? So if you have risk assessment, you verify that your system is in control stage, and which type of controls are available in that system based on your risk criteria or based on defined risk. So by risk assessment, if you define before the risk, you can control, or you can define the strategy to control that risk. And if any risk is available after the control is verified, then you can say that you can use some another control. Means you can define in some process or physical process in your SOP. So if risk is not mitigated with the defined functionality in system, you can control by your SOP. So it's a reduce uh, incident during workplace. It save life or improve product quality. Save cost by being proactive instead of reactive. Recognize and control hazard in your workplace. Create awareness among your employee and use it as a training tool. If I define risk assessment based on system functionality, then uh, it's in a project stage. So which employee is available at that project stage, they know which type of risk is there in that system. But afterwards, after 5 to 10 years, someone join with that company. So how he or she can know that this type of risk may be occur during operation of this system. So by the documentation or by the preparing of risk assessment, new one can also know that this type of risk is will be happening for during operation, and these controls are defined in the system. So risk assessment is very useful in pharma industry, and also in IT industries. Risk assessment is useful. So based on your functionality, your role, and your process, risk is defined. So, as Game 5 suggests that for defining risk assessment, use ICH guideline. So, this session represent how to prepare risk assessment with some examples. Thank you. So, three fundamentals of risk assessment is there. If you define any risk assessment, it's a probability, severity, and detectability. So remember this scenario, and sometimes it's divided or fraction in some another criteria. Means I define that severity based on financial condition, severity based on patient or say product, severity based on business. So these some other parts or some categories are there, but the whole scenario is that you have to multiply probability, severity, and detectability. Based on this multiplication, you get RPN number, or we can say that is a risk priority. Okay, thank you everyone.
Hello, sir.
Hi sir.
And thank you very much. So we continue the doubt section. If you have any doubts are there, you can ask there. We will be there for 15 to 20 minutes. Clear all your doubts. 30 members are watching this video.
Okay,
Uh, Friends, you can clear your doubts there.
if you have the
Uh,
control like if you have the control like SOP, can we directly write control, and can we make the risk as a low without qualification? Yeah, yes. If you have control in SOP, or if you have some defined procedure for that to prevent that risk, you can give also reference of that SOP or that session of that SOP. Means if I have some controls or some formatting are there, or some type of checklist in that SOP, so I already eliminate the uh, system related risk. What is HLRA? It
hmm,
is a high level risk assessment. It is used for business point of view, or an impact related to based on your operation, or any regulatory impact is there. So HLRA is defined as per perspective of business. What is difference between CSV risk assessment and risk assessment in our operation? So CSV risk assessment is based on your URS, means which type of functionality you want, and our operation risk assessment is based on your how the process is defined, and based on your some experience, means this type of event is happen in past, so which type of risk is now, and what is the control, or which type of control we can use to protect or say to reduce this type of risk. Sir, shall we get this risk assessment class in Telugu? Sorry, I don't know the Telugu. I only know the Hindi, English, and Gujarati. If you are comfortable with anyone this language, so I can read it. For quantitative, how get severity number three after control? Severity means the impact on it's in product, or you can say in human being. So severity is same if my control is there or not. After performing risk assessment, even failure occur, what to do? So again, you have to define risk assessment, and kappa is there. You can control that event and prevent which will not happen again and again. So kappa you can your means kappa is there, and based on your kappa you can go for the change control. Why severity remains same in both condition, before control and after control? Means severity is the impact. If I have the control but the impact is same, so after control severity will be same as previous. In validation process, how can find risk in production automation and in the field risk in system? So production automation means it is during operation. So you have to define operation risk, which is not considering the system functionality, and the system functionality is in CSV. So CSV cover the functionality of the system, and during operation, it is another scenario for the routine operation of the system. As I already said that if a failure occur, you go for some change control for that, and kappa corrective action, and preventive action for that. While new system come to the facility, the risk will be due for the new system coming, and we will the functional risk assessment. Didn't we want to do risk assessment? As I already said that you can combine this type of scenario, means pre and post, in one risk assessment. There is no standard that you have to define risk pre and post, but you have to evaluate the risk. What is the risk before and what is the risk after control? How can we find the pre-risk assessment in system? It's some thought process is there. There is no any documentation or no any reference is used. uh, we just by define the risk by thinking and by experiencing of the system owner. If we are doing risk for new product introduction, then validation is our control. But if validation isn't required for the same product, then what to do? Risk for new product. If product is similar to an previous product, then you doesn't require the risk assessment. You can going by some file notice there or any reference document prepared for this scenario, that no risk is required. If same system is introduced in your company, so some already defined one risk for one system. So you can define, you must have to define same risk for a new system, but you can use that risk assessment as a reference and proceed for the second system. Why severity is same as per RA and post RA? As I already explained, it's a impact on that risk, so severity will be same. Medium level risk assessment. If there is no more impact on a product, or we can say in a human being, then the risk is medium. So by multiplying the RPN number, or we can say that probability, detectability, and severity, it will be the medium risk medium risk. So risk assessment is a document where low, medium, and high risk priority is defined. What difference is in pre and post risk assessment is both are required. It's not compulsory. Some company is using one risk assessment after implementing the system, means controls are verified, then define both risk. So it reflect that before measure this risk is already defined, then after measure we control that risk, but a risk assessment is must required during validation activity. Please give brief explanation about RA tool. So in this GameFi guideline, we using only functional based risk, is a risk based on the functionality. So this type of another tools are required in farm. Many we can say that IT industries is there, and many finance industries there. So it is more complex to explain another tools. But give some examples which are ongoing in market, but they are not used for a CSV purpose. If the reference document doesn't have controls like ID creation, then what the procedure shall we go for revalidation to include controls or want the correct procedure. You can define ID creation procedure in your SOP. So some format is there. So based on that format, ID is created. So it will be the part of your SOP, and based on that SOP, user department or say system owner define the ID creation. So you doesn't require any revalidation. After mitigation, risk is also high. Then what to do? If risk is high after the control, then to prevent this risk, you must have to define in SOP, or you have some another control in your company which prevent or lower the risk. When did we perform risk assessment before and after validation? So before validation activity means qualification activity, IQ, OQ, and PQ. Before risk is defined, and after IQ, OQ, and BQ means after validation, post risk assessment will be performed. If the new system come to the facility, we have to do risk assessment. That is not the functional risk assessment. Yes, it is a functional risk assessment based on URS. Based on risk assessment, we can find categorize the software. No, based on risk assessment, you can't find which category is used for software. Based on GXP assessment, you define which category of software is that. And for the application, we have to do the functional risk assessment. And can I have the difference between both? Did we want to do two risk assessment for the new system coming and new application? No, if you are capable to define one risk assessment and all by covering the all scenario, so one risk assessment is there. No any another risk assessment is required. Risk assessment is required for FND or ADL facility because this facility is not in audit scope. So this is answer or it's a question. Okay, if you follow the game
Any
5,
questions other than this?
must have to define the risk assessment, because as already title of game 5 said that risk assessment approach based on game 5 for CSV. So anything else?
Anything else? Okay, 1 hour 6 minutes completed. If anything else is there, you can comment. You can comment in comment box, or you can message me in group. I will send to the sir, or you can mail to the sir mail ID. Okay. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Bye bye.
Thank you everyone.
Thank you. Bye.